So I heard that you guys actually want to see a little bit more 2v2 action with these Tyranids. Well, the Massive boys are back again. We got Massive Aboba rocking the Hive Tyrant, and we got Massive Cry rocking the Hive Tyrant. So far leading with, I was going to say, not the same builds, because Cry was taking so long to get that second Termagant, but it is going to be identical builds from both of the Hive Tyrants, who appear to be sharing the same colour scheme as well, which is cool. Valdaris Refinery is the map. It's a reskin of the Caldaris Refinery map. Really interesting 2v2 map because one player is in charge of both of the power farms here. Which is interesting because if you can get a good timing push against this player with a 2v1, then you can wipe out all of the generators for the enemy team in one go. So it definitely creates some unique mechanics. Let's see how how Bruce and Kickin, who are both rocking Tech Marines, I just realised somehow, how they're going to actually deal with this. So it's like ranged versus melee. That said, you know, Nids have got 4 ranged units out for now. A lot of scouts for the red team, especially considering this is a team game, you know. 2 scouts is obviously standard in a 1v1, but in a team game it's less common. We're actually going to see triple scouts for Bruce Campbell. I wonder what the idea behind that is. Will we see some snipers? I think one player getting double snipers could be quite useful to focus fire synapse creatures, try and trigger some backlash, and then rely on shotguns from your ally and then your spare scout squad. But we'll have to see. Nope. Wait. Yeah. Okay, they're all kind of all over the place. Hang on, so Bruce is the one down here in yellow, and Kickin is the Blood Raven. Alright. So we're only seeing shotguns so far, which is fair enough. And obviously early game the Tyranids are putting a lot of pressure on, but you know, in spite of being on the enemy half of the map right now, the Tyranids aren't actually getting a lot of map control for it. Well, they have took the natural VP of Kickin, but Kickin has actually managed to sneak his scouts off and take the contested VP in the mid, so that is helping him not bleed too much VPs. And in fact, looks like Bruce Campbell has pushed off, who's who here? Pushed off Aboba. So Termagant's doing a decent job there, focus firing the scouts, but honestly these Termagants have been on the field fighting for ages now, and they are suffering some pretty significant bleed. Probably best just to get them out of there. But the pressure remains on, Hormagaunts flanking around. These scouts are going to back off to the support of their buddy shotgun scouts. But the Hormagaunts in turn are going to soft retreat away, fall back to the safety of the Barb Strangler warriors. And these Barb Strangler warriors are going to be very effective against all the scouts here. I was going to say the typical counter to the Barb Strangler warriors then would be to get some ASM who can jump on them and tie them up in melee, but the problem there is, of course, there is a Hive Tyrant and there are Hormagaunts to counter-initiate. I still think, honestly, that probably would be a good choice, but it's not going to happen. We're going to get Devs instead. I'm kind of confused about the scout spam. Kraken rounds loaded in on the tactical marines, giving them extra damage to heavy infantry. Helps to deal with these warriors, who do lose one of their models, but it might be a dead tech marine here. Termagant's moving in for the melee on retreat. I think the regen, which is 1 HP per second regen on the Bionics there, might have saved the tech marine. One of the warriors have already fallen, causing some backlash. One of the Termagants now needs to retreat. This is basically a 2v1 on Aboba. It's a very tricky situation, and this is the kind of situation that I was saying earlier where you've got to be really careful. A little bit of a miss micro here from Bruce, though, moving in far too close. I think he thought that they were more Termagants, and then he quickly looked at them and realised, oh shit, they've got big talons. They're Hormagaunts, I don't want to get this close. So he's got to back out with his scouts. What's going on the far side? We've got a bit of a... Okay, the Termagants are taking the VP and just capping, not really achieving too much. Yeah, and that is the Hormagaunts overextending slightly, having to retreat down a unfortunate path and able to be wiped out by those Space Marines there. But there was a flank on the Devastators who were left on their own from the Hive Tyrant here of Cry. It's going to cause some problems. They get routed off. Now the Termagants are free to do their thing. Tactical Marines here, not in a great spot, hit by that crippling poison. Tactical Marines here, also not in a great spot. Super, super low on HP. If they get hit by a Bar Strangler, we could be looking at lost models. I love this war gear. Bioplasma, look at that, boom. Leaves a little bit of a damage over time. Decent impact damage. A little bit of knockback. Helpful for disrupting the enemy setup teams. Hormagaunts now are in position. Because of that, the ranged blob has to turn around and focus the Hormagaunts, and they do bleed a lot of models. But the problem is that the Hive Tyrant now is free to move in, as are the Bow Strangler Warrior Brood. So between the Bow Strangler Warrior Brood and the Hive Tyrant, able to disrupt these Devastators very well. And in fact, this might be a wipe of the Devastators. Quite a lucky special attack there from the Hive Tyrant. It is going to be a wipe on the Devastators. Should be a kill on the Hive Tyrant as well. God, he is one tanky fucker though. Tech Marine kills him with a fist bump. Now needs to get out of there. 2 models on the tax taken down there. What's happened on the other side? Looks like the Termagants were routed. I don't know by what. Doesn't look like there was much more bleed incurred by Kickin. And the Tech Marine is now forced off down here. However, the Hive Tyrant is available to revive his buddy Hive Tyrant. And the Scout's obviously chasing Cry's Hive Tyrant to try and prevent that, but it's not going to work because Termagants are there to deal with him. Obviously you have Hormagaunts to counter the attacks, Termagants to counter the Scouts. That's how that works. So, Space Marines not making their way to Tier 2 yet. Let's see how close they are. So Bruce Campbell is currently floating. Kickin has about 20 odd power to go. Bruce Campbell is now starting his tech. Aboba is a little bit ahead of him. 15 seconds or so. And Cry is already in Tier 2. Spawning out some Rippers to support his push with his Termagants here. That's going to help out. Tie up those tacks. And a Zonephobe's coming out. Zonephobe's going to be very good in the mid to late game, chilling around this middle part of the map, hitting anything that tries to take the VP, but also dislodging any P-Devs and any other Devastators that are going to be trying to set up position. And I mean, you've already got... Well, Bruce must... Did Bruce get Devs? I seen him building it, but did they wipe? Honestly, I can't even fucking remember. So there's only one Devastator for now, but I would be surprised if there weren't P-Devs later on. P-Devs are so good in team games and good against NIDs, you know. A clean shot can wipe out a Gaunt squad instantly. Especially if you mark target them. So it looks like Bruce is going to be opting for a melee Tech Marine. He's got that Bionics armor anyway. We've seen the powerful sweep in action quite a bit. And he's going to be getting his Axe and the Mechanicum. That's a nice synergy because the Bionics, obviously you use it up close in melee, but it also, this armor increases your melee damage by 20%, so it all comes together quite nicely. Crazy, crazy amount of resources for Massive Aboba. So he is going to be taking immediately to Tier 3. Literally no upgrades in Tier 2 as of yet. Now he can still get Endless Swarm. He's going to be getting that. I like that. And he can also get 4x Swarm of the Warrior Brood. Probably wise because honestly there's still a crazy range blob for Bruce and I really would like to keep those Bow Stranglers for now. Ripper's coming out from Aboba. But this Tech Marine's causing some issues. And a bit of a swing and a miss there on the Bioplasma. Not really achieving a whole lot. Tech Marine putting on a lot of pressure here onto the Warrior Brood and pushing Aboba back. On the other side, Hive Tyrant of Cry going in, now fully upgraded. It's had the extended Carapace, giving him that charge ability, and the Psychic Scream, which is an AoE debuff. It's had that for most of Tier 1. Now picked up the Crushing Claws as well, the highest DPS weapon in the entire game. Not very good against kiting range units though, because it attacks too quickly. So each individual hit doesn't really do that much damage, but you do not want to stand and trade with this thing. 108 DPS heavy melee, even against a Dreadnought, that thing will tear it apart quite quickly. I think the Dreadnought will still win. But yeah, it will still win, because the damage is halved against the vehicle armor of the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought does full damage to the Hive Tyrant. Dreadnought maybe does about 80 DPS to 100. And has nearly as much HP. The Dreadnought's going to be going for an Assault Cannon though, which I actually find very questionable, given that there is already Crushing Claws on the Hive Tyrant. So that Hive Tyrant now will kick the shit... Jeez. Sorry about that. The Hive Tyrant will kick the shit out of the Assault Cannon Dreadnought because it loses its melee resist. Massive Aboba is so far ahead in tech, it is insane. Double Zone Throps is going to be the play from Cry, but right now the Tyranid players have left themselves a little bit vulnerable because both of them, well, Aboba's already tier 3, nearly with enough resources for a Swarmlord. Cry is going tier 3. Basically their investments in tier 2 have been very lacking compared to the Space Marines. The Space Marines have continued to get upgrades onto their tier 1 units. I mean, Kickin has dropped a massive fat 150 power into this Dreadnought. We see a Razorback from Bruce. This is a lot of investment. Obviously Bruce spent a lot of power upgrading his Tech Marine. So this is the red team's chance to push back out, put some economic damage onto the blue team, which they're certainly doing. They're getting a little bit of gem bashing done. Unfortunately not able to secure the full gem bash, and that is actually going to be quite impactful. Whilst gem bashing Tyranids in tier 2 isn't that big of a deal because they mostly rely on requisition of the power in tier 2 for their units, it is pretty good gem bashing them in tier 3 because Carnifex costs an ungodly amount of power. 150 here for the base Carnifex, but the thing is, that base Carnifex is barely any better than a melee Dreadnought. So then you've got to pay even more power in order to get the upgrades. If you want to start churning out multiple Carnifex, yeah, it becomes super expensive in terms of power. We'll see how the map control has turned basically completely red. Really, the red team needs to be capping this with these tacks or something like that. Losing out on the extra requisition is never nice. Tech Marine with the axe doing pretty good here, tanking like crazy, getting some nice special attacks on the Hormigons, it's just bleeding models, nearly level 3 on that guy. The thing is with the levels on that Tech Marine, he becomes disproportionately great with those levels because it's not only buffing his melee and his HP, but it's giving you the energy to fuel the Refractor Shield as well. I think that was a bit of a strange bioplasma from the Carnifex. If he hit the rear arm with the Razorback, that should have been a done deal. Wow, totally unnecessary. Bruce Campbell failing to micro there and actually loses his Razorback to the Venom Cannon Carnifex. Now, I must be honest, that was a big commitment to try and deal with a Razorback. I mean, you're looking at what, 180, 190 power for this thing? But the good thing is, there is an Assault Cannon Dreadnought on the field as well. So that's going to be a very nice tool to deal with that. Here we go, a couple of shots coming in. It always fires 2 shots, has a little bit of a cooldown. It's like, ooh, spicy things coming out of my appendage, I gotta wait. And then it shoots again. Another 2 shots. Don't know how much damage they do per hit, does it tell me? 100 armor piercing damage per shot, which I assume is just 100 damage basically to vehicle armor. Then you've got the double crippling, no, not crippling, what's this ability called from the Zone Throps? Focus Warp Blast as well, which can do a little bit of spike damage at long range. So there's definitely some pressure on that Dreadnought, but talking about pressure, there's pressure on the blue team right now. They need to get out and get some map control. VPs are getting quite low for them. Already under 160 VPs for the blue team to over 340 for the red team. Bruce Campbell now going to be getting a Dreadnought of his own, whilst Kickin is taking to tier 3. I'm not sure about the play from Bruce to get a Dreadnought. I feel like the time for Dreadnoughts has kind of passed. We'll see. I mean, Dreadnoughts are always decent against Tyranids. You know, they're not weak against Carnifex, but I feel like the AV options are pretty decent here for the blue team already, and one can only expect more and more Carnifex are going to come rolling out. Now, getting a Swarmlord here would be fantastic because the Swarmlord actually buffs the speed of the Carnifex, which is just such a brutal combo. Brutal combo. Let's see, Neurothrope, of course, has been chosen by Cry. Really nice support unit when you're fighting against Space Marines. You've seen earlier it actually pinned in place the Tech Marine when he kind of overextended. It can drain the energy from a single model, and it actually uses that to fuel its own energy because it has no passive regeneration. But it's nice to pin in place heroes or Terminators to bleed them. And of course, the advantage of going for the Neurothrope, other than just having, you know, Paroxysm to do good damage against attacks and Cataclysm to knock over Devastators, the advantage of getting it against Space Marines is you get a bit more insurance against Terminators. Terminators in team games can be very hard to deal with, but the Paroxysm, the big AoE damage over time ability from the Neurothrope, it does psychic damage, and also percentage-based damage. So it takes off a percentage of the maximum HP of the enemy Terminators, and then that gets multiplied by the fact that they're super heavy infantry because it's psychic. So it's nice insurance, and as I predicted, the Dreadnought of Bruce Campbell here, not really achieving a whole lot. It takes massive damage from the double focus Warp Blast, and they should be off cooldown again pretty soon. Cry should probably turn off the shields for those Zone Thropes. We have the Hive Tyrant trying to put in some work. It looks like there's double crushing claws. Oh, but there are crazy repair supports at the moment onto this Dreadnought. No, this is not good. He shouldn't be taking this fight. He needs to get out of there. Yeah, this is a bad fight for the Nids. What is the Hive Tyrant doing? Hive Tyrant gets wrecked. The Zone Thropes need to get out of there because of these scouts. Oh, not so much. There is a Swarm Lord on the field. I don't like this use of the Bioplasma from the Carnifex just on random infantry. The Venom Cannon Carnifex, its Bioplasma does really good damage to vehicles. I mean like hundreds. So I think you should definitely be saving that for the vehicles. Electroshock Grub, going to disable the Dreadnought a little bit. But these units are still uncontested. There's no AV on this side, and the Venom Cannon Carnifex taking a lot of damage from the last cannon, and now Vengeance rounds as well from the Stern Guard. Someone needs to tie up these Stern Guard. What are the blue team doing? They haven't noticed. No, he needs to force melee with the Carnifex onto the Stern Guard. Stop them shooting. Just force melee. There's literally no other AV here. Well, he's going to get out. Saved by the Crippling Poison, it would appear, from the Termagants. Tech Marine could still opt to swap to the Melter Gun. In fact, probably not needed. The power melee will do a little bit of damage. It does just under a third of the damage that heavy melee would do to vehicles. And you can see it's not a lot, but it's something. It's tickling away. Plasma Pistol also contributes. Will this Carnifex manage to get out of there? There should be another Crippling Poison coming in. Oh, the Crippling Poison missed! The Crippling Poison missed the Tech Marine because of the Refractor Shield, giving the 20% accuracy debuff to all enemy attacks. Apparently that includes abilities, which is fucking hilarious. But nonetheless, somehow the Carnifex manages to sneak out. And will we see healing from the Zone Thropes? They have got their Symbiosis upgrade. They're going to be healing up that Carnifex. Now, a bit of pressure happened then on the east side of the map. Looks like I missed it. I don't know if a Tyranna formation went down. It's possible. Not sure. Certainly some fighting went down, that's for sure. There's green shit all over the place. And the natural VP of the red team was taken temporarily, but they've got it back now. It is a 2-to-1 cap in favour of the blue team, but the problem for the blue team right now is they've got 220 VPs on the red team to grind through, less than 100 VPs themselves, so they need to be very, very wary of protecting their natural power point. Well, their natural VP, and their natural power point. But their VP more so. So Massive Aboba now got a second Carnifex out. We're going to see a melee Carnifex here, and can easily push off Bruce Campbell's force here. If we get the Electroshock Grub onto the Dreadnought, this is going to be a really scary position for the Dreadnought, with a Venom Cannon Carnifex there, and a melee Carnifex too. Yeah, this could be pretty dodgy, but there is a Predator tank coming out. Big flank from the charging Tyrant of Cry. The Swarm Lord moving in as well. What's coming down over here? Do we see Terminators? Is that a Venerable Dreadnought? That is a Venerable Dreadnought for Kickin, so he has no red for Blessings of the Omnissiah, that Venerable Dreadnought is in deep. Going to be going after the Venom Cannon Carnifex since it lacks its melee resist, but it knows it's in a little bit too deep. Hive Tyrant overextending though. Lots of repairs coming in for the Dreadnought, and it might be a dead Hive Tyrant. The Predator quickly picks up its last cannon, and that is now going to be able to put on a lot of pressure here onto those big, scary monsters, the Tyranids. Direct hit from the last cannon there really weakens the Hive Tyrant of Aboba. He's got to get out of there. On the east side, though, we see a Lictor making a nice meal out of that Scout Squad. Now going to take the VP. Termagants trying their dearest in the mid to cap the VP, reinforcing off the whoa, reinforcing off of the Swarm Lord, but they are getting interrupted by something. Neurothrope attempts to knock over the Lasdev, does do it, but it does reset up. So the Swarm Lord is taking big damage, but the Zone Thropes here should be able to wipe the Las Cannon. Should be able to, yes, the Las Cannon wipes, and the Swarm Lord is now able to melee that Dreadnought. That Dreadnought, of course, having the Assault Cannon, isn't getting any melee resist. So it's going to take big damage from that Swarm Lord. Another Electroshock Grub goes out. The problem for the Carnifex here is the Predators have got crazy amounts of repair support with these double tech Marines. The Carnifex, meanwhile, they have that passive regen, but it's just really not that high. You see the regen is higher on the Formback, but still. It's taking a long time to heal up. What's happening over here? Vendred has now got back into the action. Swarmlord has somehow got very, very weakened. But you've noticed the Lictor did finish his cap here, so it is currently a triple cap in favour of the blue team. Red team really need to get onto the VPs ASAP. What's that? Tactical Marines. I don't know what Bruce is saying he shouldn't have done. Lictor could go down here. Definitely should go down. Huge amounts of range damage. They're hitting him in retreat with the assault cannon. Look at that. What a derpy animation. The Lictor just goes flying forward. He's dead. Oh dear. And the Swarmlord pushing forward into a bad position here. Snared by a Las Cannon. And a Las Cannon Predator is going to follow up. But a little bit of miss micro there from Bruce Campbell. Not holding his fire. But another shot goes in, and that is a dead Swarmlord. But even with that Swarmlord killed, there is a Hive Tyrant and 3 Carnifex on the field here, as well as swarms of Rippers, and a Tyranna formation goes down. That is going to disrupt the Predator, which is trying to get away, but the Venom Cannon Carnifex is chasing it down. We've got 2 Venom Cannon Carnifex, we've got a Neurothrope. This is insane. Venerable Dreadnought trying its best on this side to deal with this Venom Cannon Carnifex. It's not going to be good enough, although it might get it with its Stoicism. So it is going to die once this ability wears off. There you go. Look at the damage from the Bioplasma on that Dreadnought. Oh, absolutely rips these Dreadnoughts to pieces. One of the Venom Cannon Carnifex do fall in order to do so, and the Predator remains alive, kiting the Hive Tyrant quite successfully here. But the problem here for the Predator is that these Venom Cannon Carnifex do more damage. Look at that. Boom. Boom. Oh, I must have already shot one of those shots. Oh my god, it's got levels now, so it's doing even more damage. That is a dead Predator. I was going to say, you need to send something in first to distract the Carnifexes, to draw their fire, because a Predator tank is faster than a Carnifex, and it can retreat from a Carnifex, whereas a Carnifex can't retreat from it. But the problem is, in a 1v1 fight, a Venom Cannon Carnifex is always going to win that shoot-off. It's got more damage, it's got more HP. So I think the blue team should have secured this victory now. We've got the Tech Marine pushing up again, and another beautiful Tyranna formation. Just gonna... should secure this fight. Tech Marine super low, gonna die to the Termagants. Look at the last Cannon Devastator just getting flung around by the Tyranna formation. Tyranna formation not really known for its high amount of damage. Not able to wipe out the last devs here. The Termagants should be able to do so though. And I don't think that the Tactical Marines over here are going to be able to cap with the double Zoanthropes and the Neurothrope there to intercept them. Yeah, pressure on the east side as well, and with all these Carnifex, there was no way that the red team were going to be able to win this game at this point. I think they did actually kill another Carnifex over here. No, he didn't. There were only 3, and one of them... oh, I don't know. Fucking hell, what a chaotic game. I mean, shit was dying left, right, and centre. Look how green the map is from the cataclysms of the Neurothrope. Absolute chaos. A Librarian coming out at the end there. That's an interesting choice of Kickin. I don't know what he had planned. I mean, interesting to not see any Terminators, but to be honest with you, it probably was the correct call. Terminators, their Cyclone Missile Launcher can be very effective against tanks, and especially super heavy tanks, you know, talking like Baneblade Land Raiders, because they're big, immobile targets that can't dodge it. But Carnifex, they're actually not that wide. They're very tall, but they're not that wide. And the Missile Barrage has a very wide arc. So basically what I'm trying to say is the Missile Barrage of the Terminators doesn't do a lot to Carnifex, and the Carnifex can just melee the Terminators to death pretty effectively. Certainly the Fallback can. So, and then you had a Neurothrope as well. Yeah, I think the Terminators wouldn't really have achieved that much. I think the Vendred and the Predator were the correct players, and they were used quite well. I just think the Space Marines really were a little bit too far behind from the start. I remember you had that situation where basically only these points here were owned by the blue team, and the blue team were knocked down to 1 gen on their natural farm when they chose to go tier 3 and basically skip tier 2, and I think that was the opportunity for the red team to come back into this game, but they just weren't able to put on enough pressure and not able to make enough of the fact that they spent so many resources investing in tier 2 units. And so the massive combination of massive Aboba and massive Cry is going to win a 2v2 tournament once again. That is all from your boy STD today. If you did enjoy, please leave a like and a comment. We're going to boost our views in the algorithm, and if you want more exclusive content, then you can find it on Patreon. Torpid out.